Problem solver Rob Wolchek joins us now with a special Hall of Shame investigation. Rob?
Hugh Monica, he's a tax man, he's a con man, he's a cunning scam man.
Yeah, the tax man.
You still doing taxes?
No, sir.
Meet George Elkazian, self-proclaimed CPA. Every day, dozens of people beat a path to George's door. George does their taxes. Been doing them forever.
We need your W-2.
George and his helpers welcome everyone at the door. Well, almost everyone. Hi, can we speak to George? See, I know a little secret about George. George Elkazian isn't really a certified public accountant. He's a certified crook. George, what's with all these bounced checks you got here?
No bond checks.
Well, what? These are all your checks, George. George, you're a convicted felon, aren't you? George Elkazian's taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from the people who trusted him most, his clients.
I was too embarrassed to tell my family.
So how much money would you say that this guy took from you?
Close to $30,000.
And even after George ripped them off, some still find it hard to fathom.
He's so charming, and he's a really good talker.
Seems like a very nice man.
He is. I mean, he was.
Like any great con artist, George worked slowly, spending years gaining the trust of his victims, working out of this office in Dearborn Heights. He'd get all your personal and financial info and do a great job on your taxes. According to his victims, after a few years, he might say something to you like this. You know, you got a whole bunch of money sitting in a savings account and you're sure not making much interest on it. If you ever want to get smart, really start earning some money, just talk to me. That's what he said to Cheryl.
He knew all about my financial situation, and I was just retiring at the time.
So she asked him, what do you think I should do with my money?
He had an investment opportunity and wanted some money.
How much? 20 grand. He used the same ploy on Rita.
I'm looking for more investors. He said, I'm opening this up to special friends of mine.
She gave special friend George $10,000. Paul handed over 5 grand to George and was promised a big payoff.
20% interest on your money is not bad money. And I knew him for 10, 15 years.
Elkazian used the same ruse to get to this guy's retirement money.
Worked for Chrysler, 35 years.
The 82-year-old widower gave George what amounted to almost $1,000 for every year he'd worked. After handing over the cash, George handed them a piece of paper.
I thought I was going to get some kind of shares in a company. What he gave me was a personal promissory note.
That's what he gave all his special friends. And George found lots and lots and lots of them. $30,000, $60,000, $157,000, 50 G's. The list of people he did this to goes on and on and on. All promised big interest. All told different stories of where the money was going. The interest payments usually never arrived, but if they did, they arrived by check, often bad check. So naturally, the clients would then come here to the office to find out what was going on. When they'd get here, they'd find out poor George had just had a heart attack, or a stroke, or his wife was divorcing him.
He always had a story.
Lots of Elkazian's clients filed lawsuits and won. But George didn't pay, and when they tried to seize his bank accounts, there was hardly any money in them.
What do you do with our money? That's all I want to know.
George continued taking huge sums of money from his special friends up until last year, when he sold his business to this man.
I was shocked.
Retta Alsher had no idea what he was getting into.
Clients start walking in, complaining, asking about promissory note that they received from George.
George never told the people he ripped off he'd sold his business.
I have no idea where he is.
But I do. He's at his house doing taxes for the clients he was supposed to turn over to Retta when he sold the business. Here's his new business card.
Are you George?
Yeah, what's your
I'm
name?
Kim. Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you, too.
I sent in a producer with a Fox 2 undercover camera. George agrees to do her taxes for $75.
Are you like a certified tax person or?
Only when I want to be.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like to practice certified. I am, but the only problem with that is when you start practicing certified, if people are not truthful with you, there's big penalties and everything.
Well, George, here's some truth for you. George Elkazian was convicted of his first felony way back in 1970. 7 years later, he was in state prison for felony embezzlement. When he got out, he picked up yet another felony conviction. Maybe George's CPA stands for Convicted Public Account. Hey, George. Rob Wolchek from Fox Still. Time for me to ruin the day of the phony CPA. What are you doing with all the money that you're taking from all these people with these promissory notes? What are you doing with all this money?
Thank you.
From these promissory notes?
I have no idea, sir.
You have no idea?
No,
You're
sir.
signed on all of these
No,
things, George.
sir. That's not my signature.
George, what's with all
Thank
these
you.
bounced checks you got here?
No bond checks.
Well,
Thank you.
what? These are all your checks, George.
Thank you.
George, you're a convicted felon, aren't you?
Thank you, sir.
You still doing taxes?
No, sir.
You're not. I got pictures of you doing taxes. And I got a picture of you right here in the Hall of Shame.
Shame on you. If you can't
Now remember, Retta Alsher, the guy who now owns Heights Tax Service, is a good guy. George is the bad guy. So what did Elkazian do with all the money? No one seems to know. Last time someone tried to garnish his bank account, there was $14 in it. And there's more victims. One couple emailed me just today and said George had taken them for 200 grand. Eula, Monica?
Rob, something I don't understand. This guy already has several convictions. Why isn't he in jail?
Well, because the prosecutors are saying that he made at least one interest payment on just about every one of the promissory notes, so they can't really convict him of fraud, so they're trying to find some charges, but he was smart in making one payment that was good, because it's not kind of out-and-out fraud, I guess. But we'll see after the story. Maybe something good will happen.
Sounds like a big loophole.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, thank you.